Welcome everyone to GAHE Week. I'm Bruce Lloyd, GAHE's Executive Director, and it's my pleasure to introduce GAHE's President, Angela Henry. Angela, you want to take it?
Awesome. Hello. I think we may want to give people just a few more minutes. Looks like more people are getting in. Well, yes, so we'll go ahead and get started. Start on time, end on time. If I haven't met you before, as Bruce mentioned, I'm Angela Henry. I'm the 2023 president for Georgia Association Healthcare Executives. This is one of my favorite weeks. I think we started it a year ago through our communications committee that really gives kind of an overall look into GAHE and ways to get involved. Personally, whenever I got started into ACHE, it was originally in the North Texas chapter. It was great to attend and I didn't know how to get involved. So then as I came over to Georgia, got more plugged in and learned that there's just a fabulous, tremendous way to volunteer. And all of our volunteers, obviously we've got full-time jobs that actually pay our mortgages and rent, et cetera, and our bills. But there are a lot of ways that you can get involved. And the one that we'll be highlighting today is our program subcommittees that run up through programs, which I'll hand off to after I announce. But it's because you can get involved and do things that are permittable to your schedule and your time, which you'll be able to learn more about here with Nicole and our programs leaders. So welcome everyone. We're going to try to be, like I said, start on time, end on time. So appreciate the 30 minutes that we've got. We will be doing different committees all throughout the week during this lunchtime, and then ending with a networking reception this Thursday at 6 p.m. We'll just go ahead and keep the slides going. So thank you as always to our annual sponsors. Our platinum sponsors include Wellstar and Atrium Health Navicent. Gold sponsors, Piedmont Healthcare, Metro Atlanta Ambulance Service, Sound Physicians, Vizio, Snap Nurse, Vocera, and our silver sponsors, DT Spade, Nagel and Associates, SSR, and KCA Firms, our newest silver sponsor. Thank you to all of our sponsors. We couldn't do any of our programs or events without you. We have a lot of events coming up. Our committees are always hard at work. I'll let you guys log on to www.gahe.org to learn more. But just to highlight once again, this every day at noon, we'll be highlighting different committees that you can get involved with, and then ending on Thursday with an in-person reception at 6S Brewing in Duluth. We plan to use 3 hours from 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock. So come by, it's casual. We'd love to interact with you and get to know you more face-to-face. And you can, of course, register for that event at gahe.org. We do have a new LinkedIn page. So want to always encourage people to find us on LinkedIn. Bruce does a fabulous job posting all of our events, programs, networking, educational. It's just a good way to get plugged in. We also do have Instagram now, Facebook, and Twitter. If you scan that code or just go to gahe.org/social, you can actually get a link to each of our networks and platforms with us. So once again, we do have several different groups. Today, we're going to be diving into our programs and the subcommittees throughout our programs as well. But we'll be going through each of the different committees as we progress throughout the week. So with that, I will turn it over first and foremost to Nicole Denham. Nicole has been chair of programs committee. Oh, when did I talk you into doing this? 2 years ago?
Yes.
And has grown the committee tremendously. I know that we've got Marion, who's going to speak on our Transcendre Subcommittee, and Nicole will also be giving out information about our joint programs. One of our big initiatives, as we do cover the entire state of Georgia through GAHE, which is a lot of land and a lot of people. I've got over 1,500 members now in GAHE and growing. I think we're now the largest chapter in the country. So we've got a lot of initiatives to make sure that we are bringing events not just in central Atlanta, but throughout the state of Georgia. And Nicole has just been amazing between her leadership and Marion's involvement in leadership, as well as Gina Tipton, who couldn't join us today, but Nicole will be of our joint programs that she oversees, as well as Matt Enright. It's been really neat to watch how much we've grown and have been able to really push a key initiative to make sure that we are covering the entire state. So with that, I will step aside and look forward to listen to Nicole. And this is open forum. If you want to come off mute, come off video, ask a question, put it in the chat, please feel free to do so. Like I said, whenever I first joined, I thought, oh, I don't have time for a job in addition to my actual job. But with programs, there's so many ways to get involved that don't require a tremendous amount of time. And Nicole and the leaders for our programs and our subcommittees are just absolutely incredible. So please feel free to raise a hand, ask a question in chat, or come on video. We want this to be interactive. And if you're thinking of a question, there's probably someone else on this call that's thinking the exact same thing. So Nicole, I'll hand it off to you now.
Awesome. Thanks, Angela. I'm excited to see some of you guys on here and taking a few minutes to hear about what we have going on. I recognize some of you from the recent Macon event, your names, and you're dressed a little different. Some of you are in some clinical clothing. If you haven't met me personally, I'm a nurse by training. I got my undergrad at Georgia State. I had never, ever heard of GAHE until I got my master's many years later as a business owner. I got my MHA at Penn State, and then I realized, wow, what have I been missing all of my life? Because we learn so much better together. I've had the privilege to be under Angela when she was the programs chair, and then for the last 2 years, kind of carry her initiatives forward. One of the things that mattered a lot to all of us on the board was we need to look at our state as a collective, and it's been a slow forward moving thing, but that is why we have Marion Karr on here today, and then Gina Tipton, who some of you guys had met. So that way we have not just the center of the city. I actually live by Chateau Alon, so I'm excited to see some events not always be downtown myself. But we're really focused on developing leadership skills and really knowledge exchange, and then facilitating networking. I think as our patient care is moving outside of the four walls of a hospital, it's all the more imperative that GAHE matches that in our membership and our leadership and networking events that we're promoting. Needs to be inclusive of all clinicians, all leaders across the industry, no matter if that you're a vendor or you are working direct patient care. So that's kind of collectively what I would say has been driving us. You know, they say they save the best for last, but I went first, so I'm not sure what that says about my committee. But like Angela said, what we kind of do, the three of us, Gina, Marion, and myself, is we sit down, we forecast for the year, and we say we're going to do this many networking events, this many face-to-face events, and then we have a host and a junior host. So that's kind of already set in stone for this year. So anybody who jumps on board would just have a minimal amount of time on your calendar, but it would let you kind of step in and see which kind of event you may like. We're very open to adding things to the calendar. It's a matter of how many hands do we have, in there to help. We are looking toward doing things in North Georgia, out kind of not as north, but kind of out by Chateau Alon as well. I finally got my area of town on there. We have something in Duluth this week, which you guys know about. So the more you guys are involved, the more we're going to take our calendar and say, yeah, we'll do that. We can do a virtual event, or we can do a live event. And so don't be afraid of the commitment. Just, if you decide you want to come forward, we'll match you up. So programs kind of encompasses a few things. We have our face-to-face events, which you guys, some of you participated in at Maggiano's before. And we have just recently had one at Macon, and this is where you can get your FACHE credits if that's something you're interested in seeking out for your credential, or just, coming together without getting that credit. You can still get a lot out of it. And then under that, we have a lot of networking events, which we really just like to make them purely fun and let's get together and what do you do and what do I do? Kind of a thing. And then we have joint programs, which is where, and I don't have Sean McBride on today, where we grow relationships, like Angela said, with people who are already carrying work that we should collaborate with, like the Georgia Nursing Association or Health Connect South or our bordering chapters. So that way we can have an offering that's more collective, maybe in a regional sense. And then lastly, we have Marion Spears Karr, which I will say now we've saved the best for last. And he has a subcommittee called Transcendre, which is like a rogue version of the programs committee. There are some boundaries, but we're allowed to kind of be a little bit more creative in content. And that's why we put Marion over that, because he is a rogue leader, right, Marion?
I don't know if rogue is necessarily as a kid, I didn't color outside the lines. I colored on the outside of the book, is what my mother used to say. But being the best for last, that's overrated. Being first, we raise the bar so all the other committees can just, do whatever. It's great to be with you guys. So the Transcendre Committee used to be called the Webinar Committee, but we realized that we did a lot more. So this word really is it's a play on the word transcender, in the fact that what we are trying to do is take programs and expand it and grow it and expand our reach. And that reach is through webinars, which is one of the things we do. We started a clubhouse. I don't know how many of you have been active in our clubhouse. We have a monthly clubhouse where it's very interactive, where we have topics that are relevant to our membership. We have guests on, and it's highly interactive. It's audio only. We have a leadership series. We also, it's out of the Transcender Committee that the Toastmasters Club has been developed. Our whole goal, and this is why we need you to join us, our whole goal is to expand and grow our reach and our engagement with our members. And one of the things we're trying to do also that Nicole has taught about is be regionally focused as well. I live in the mountains. I live up in Jasper. So I'm kind of responsible in a sense for what we're trying to do in the northern part of the state. We are going to have an event May 9th at Hamilton Medical Center in Dalton, Georgia. Wait for details on that. We're finishing up that. So one of the things that we love, and I see a lot of people have joined us, and some of those I got to meet this week and some I don't know. One of the things we want to do is to create an environment that is far beyond just being members. We want to be engaged and feel like you're gaining something from this. And to Angela's point, I'm from North Carolina originally. I got involved with ACHE in North Carolina. And I'm also involved in the Chicago chapter of ACHE because my team's based there. I will tell you that we are setting the bar for not just other committees within GAHE, but we're setting the bar for programs in all states across the United States in ACHE. And it's because we're creative. It's because we think outside the box, all those terms, whatever term you want. But where we could use some help is, and where we could really gain even more value, is to have more input, to be more inclusive, to have people that are from a different perspective. I see there's a couple physician leaders in the chat. We would love to have you, because one of the things we want to do is also build our membership in the context of clinical leadership, nursing and physician and those type of things. So that was what I wanted to cover. We have a lot of fun with the programs committee. We're a hardworking group, but we have a lot of fun. And the more people we have, the less work we all have to do. We can do it as a collective. So
We can have more fun.
We can have more fun. Yeah. So if you have questions, put them in the comments. I'll kick it back to Nicole. I don't know if I missed something, but
no, I think he's, highlighted a lot. We have some, obviously, we have a governing body. And so there's a certain amount of work that has to go on. Bruce carries that. He's an actual employee. So he carries a lot of that work for all of us. But this is supposed to be about collaboration. And I think at least for the clinicians on the call, how healthcare is so siloed off. And that is like we do not want that. So if we have the more thought leadership we have into these committees or subcommittees, the better off we all are, because we're all bringing a perspective that's unique. I think that's really important. And then our network grows, and we know we can invite more people on as panelists and that are not members, because, I kind of joked a week ago with Bruce and said, for our event in Macon, I didn't want it to be a huge differentiator between members and non-members for the price, because we're not like Comcast. We're not trying to lock you in here. We think we're really good without tricking you. And then we know that we will prove the value and, carry it away. And that's how the more members we have that come and step up to the volunteer side, the better. And like, for example, we have upcoming clubhouse event with the chief of staff with Wellstar, and he's going to talk how he moved from the landscaper at Kennestone to the chief of staff for the system. And we want our young leaders to hear this. We want our middle of the career leaders to hear this. And sometimes it's a matter of, looking at somebody and going, I could do that too. And having those side conversations, sitting at a table or at the networking events, to me, are just as a value of having a legitimate panel that's there to teach us something. And I think that I hope is what we're starting to provide to our memberships year over year, exponentially.
Yeah, let me make a point on the Clubhouse. If you're not familiar with Clubhouse, it was an app that really took off during the pandemic. That it's an interactive app. For those of you who are old enough, it's like an old school chat room back in the day when the internet first developed, except it's audio only. Yeah, I know, I'm dating myself. That absolutely dating my hell old I am. Yeah, on my 356i, whatever computer that was, I don't remember. But anyway, it's kind of like that. It's very highly interactive. What's really cool about it is it's because it's audio only, you could be doing other things. And I don't think you'll mind me mentioning it. Paul Barkley, I don't know if you guys know Paul Barkley. Paul Barkley is a hospital executive in Georgia. He takes his lunch. He walked up to me in Macon. He goes, I love the Clubhouse. He goes, I listen to every one of them. He goes, I bring my lunch to my desk and I put on the Clubhouse and listen to the conversations and pay attention. And it's funny how it's an opportunity for us to learn together. That's the other goal for programs. We want to create an environment where we learn together, it's not just top-down information, but we learn together and collectively. So please join us for the Clubhouse stuff and all the other different things. One last thing I do want to mention, and if you got questions, please, raise your hand or unmute. One of the things that we want to do also is Nicole just mentioned is to reach non-members. So as you think about, I want to double down on that. As you think about, who in your organization is not familiar with ACHE, who in your in GAHE, who in your organization wants to grow as a leader. I joined ACHE initially. I've been an executive. I'm like Angela and I are the same industry. We're both in executive search. I've been in it a very long time. But when I joined ACHE, my original plan was I'm the network. What I didn't realize, even though I'd been in the industry for a while, is how much I was going to learn. And I'll tell you, I'm much better at what I do now because of my involvement in ACHE and GAHE. Much, much better. And I've been in the industry 32 years. So that's another thing. You think about GAHE as an opportunity for you to learn. It's not just an organization to belong to, even though you can. Belonging is important, but it's also important that we're always continuing to learn. And I've learned so much, particularly since I've been in Georgia the last several years. Nicole, I'll kick it back to you.
Yeah, and I think I recognize a few students on the call here too. And again, I was kind of voluntold to enter my chapter as an MHA student. And the same thing, it's not that I came into it thinking there wasn't anything I had to learn. I thought I didn't have enough time to learn, in addition to being in grad school. So that I really, really just a special place in my heart for bringing the young leaders along the side of us, and exposing them to other sides of the industry. The other day I was joking, I was at the Maxwell High School a couple of years ago, and they brought me in to speak about healthcare, and they were on the healthcare pathway. And I said, well, what do you want to do? And they're like, I want to be a neurosurgeon. Well, what do you want to do? Well, I want to be a neurosurgeon. So it was like 5 people in this room wanted to be neurosurgeons, which probably statistically is not going to happen. But part of our, I really say that to say is sometimes you're in this industry head down and you do not know what's going on around us to even know A, other opportunities, but B, how can we be doing our job better? And I have leaned on, especially during the COVID years, I leaned on this chapter to make sure we had the COVID response as tight as we could with people around me to make sure that we were taking care of the patient population. So it's not a clinical organization, but I think we make it what it is. And we still are all here at the end of the day to make sure that we're providing some kind of patient care or something that's adjuncting that. And that is probably why I personally love all of GAHE. I know we just had Seppi Browning join us. She's our communications leader, but we were talking about how much better programs is than all the other committees there, Seppi. I don't know if she can hear me.
Well, and I'll chime in real quick. So one thing I think is really neat, and especially to the students. So at GAHE week, this entire week that we're doing came from Seppi's communication team, and it came from students from the night, they were like, to be involved, but we can't do something every single week. You know, we're full-time students. No bad question per se. You know, in healthcare, we all talk about, you know, Marion staffing. We hear complaints daily about burnout and about the frustration. You know, this is the first time that we've ever had 5 generations in a course. And so how do you get that resiliency and that award and that, you know, that from 5 different generations that all act very differently in a workforce? Similarly, in GAHE, we've got lifetime fellows all the way down to students. And so I'll be honest, whenever Marion told me about Clubhouse, I was like, what in the world? Like, I thought I was pretty like up with the times and all the social media stuff. I had no idea what he was talking about. Clearly, but there's no bad or negative idea. You know, if you've got something, hey, this could potentially work to get information disseminated throughout our entire geographic platform, because there's a lot of diversity in that. Also within the diversity of the ages and the level of career that people are at within GAHE, because we are so large. And as well as the diversity of the types of industry that we are all in. You know, I think Lorraine was one of our first speakers in rural healthcare. And it was amazing to see her point of view, which is very different than a level 1 trauma center in the middle of Atlanta, and the types of challenges that they're seeing post-COVID, whether it's, you know, and any of our topics, they're very, very different, or what a vendor is seeing versus a physician leader versus a pharmacy leader. You know, we've had so many great panels where we're getting out of that Maggiano's 8 times a year, 3rd Thursday, which we're going to keep that. Our lifetime fellows would absolutely kill us if we were trying to move that time or that location. And just the bread and butter Atlanta C-suite that's speaking. You know, we want a point of view to come into play. And so that's why we want volunteers from every different angle of healthcare leadership and every different level of their career. It is very important so that we can make sure that we are feeding our members and being a value add, not just an association and not just 5 letters after your name, but truly a value add to their professional development.
Yeah, does anybody have any questions? I know we have it in the chat here that you can ask. I also put my email in there if you want to email me privately and say, were you kidding about the commitment level? Because I don't want to be signing a house, you know, signing anything away. Any questions for anybody?
And feel free to unmute yourself if you just want to ask a question directly.
Yeah. So look, one other point I want to make. One of the things programs committee does manage and plan the Maggiano's meeting, the monthly. And one of the exciting parts about that is the programs committee, we divide up and we pick topics that are important to us. For example, myself and a couple other people, I'm really interested in what's happening in the industry from a disruption perspective. So one of our meetings topics is going to be around disruption in healthcare. I can really get into that because that's the work that I do. Part of the work that I do is in the private equity backed space of healthcare, which is really disrupted. Why is that of value? Why am I using that as an example? Again, I'm going to go back to the learning process and the learning opportunities you have by being part of this committee. Just in the research that I'm doing, just to put that panel together, and Elizabeth Brinkley and I are putting that together. I've read, like in the last 2 weeks, I've read about 7 articles I had not seen, and I read voraciously to keep up with my industry. So again, it's not just, it's about a way to support and help the programs committee, but I'll tell you individually, the learning process, and I don't mean to keep doubling down on that, but I think about no matter where we are in our career, be it senior execs or mid-careerist or young careers, these are opportunities to learn from the best and the brightest in our state and from around the country. So I want to double down on that
I think
topic.
that's good. And then we do have a question by Demi. Tell me, I'm sure I did that wrong. If you want to unmute, tell me how to say your name.
Hey, Nicole, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
You said it fine. Thanks so much for this informational. So what I'm hearing is an opportunity to learn with like-minded folks. It's flexible as much time as we have, as much as we want to do with our focusing on our different passions and thinking outside the box, which all sounds great. My question is, like in terms of structured meetings, is it once a month, once a quarter, twice a month? What type of structured, and then what times, just so that we can have the basic fundamental commitment to be as engaged, to know which way we want to pivot to be of value to you and the rest of the team.
Sure. So that's a great question. I probably should have led with that. So when every other Wednesday, from 8 to 8:30 is Marion's, I almost forgot your name. That's his subcommittee's time. And then the same day, every other Wednesday, from 9 to 9:30 is programs. And we ask for 90% attendance. They're usually pretty quick. And then as we roll, when we get to December, we sit down and we do our calendar for the year. And we usually ask that you take a junior host for one of the months for the next year on an event, junior host. So you're working with somebody who's already put one of these events together. And then anybody who rolls into this year, wherever you guys can plug in, that is perfect. So hopefully that answered your question.
Well, and something I would suggest you can do, if you pick the event in March, be on those calls for like the first, I guess, 60 to 90 days before your event, and then the debrief. But then you want to take some time away in the fall, that's completely fine. Once you've done your event, but it is helpful because it'll be surprising. We'll have those calls and, oh my goodness, we had Angela Henry that was going to speak on this panel. Now she's out of town. This is the subject. Does anyone that's not a junior or senior host and assigned to that month know of someone we can replace her with? It's a lot. Like, we want to tap into your networks. And if we don't have people that are consistently on those calls, or we end up where we were years back pre-COVID, where it's kind of the same systems and the same speakers, because it's the same networks that we're tapping into. Yeah. And that's what we're trying to do, is tap into North and South Georgia networks, vendor, private practice, private equity backed, and get those ideas. Because if it's the same 5 people that are putting on every lunch and learn, it's going to be the same panels.
Yeah, and then joint subcommittee, joint programs, they are not at that same time. So we have, I don't remember what time that they run at. Bruce, do you know when Sean does his?
I don't think he has a regular time, but I did want to add by Demi's question, the other committees, programs and the Transcendre, they're definitely our most active committees. But then the other committees typically meet once a month for 30 to 45 minutes. If that helps.
And I don't actually ever check the attendance level, but I'll know if people aren't there for long enough, because we do have a lot. We have to have that kind of cadence, for Angela's point, as we're kind of coming up to an event, and then how we evaluate it. And that is really where we're looking at the commitment to be around that piece.
Thank you so much. That was helpful. And then the part 2 of my question. So do we just email you, Nicole, if we're interested, just give you our reachable cell phone number, email address, and then you'll plug us in, or is there an application process?
Yeah, so if you want to email me, I would love to have a conversation with everybody who's interested. So that way we can go over some more details I can share. We have some documents that kind of lay stuff out a little bit. And also, like, if you're interested even in, joining Marion's or Sean's subcommittee, feel free to email me and I'll hook you straight up with them as well. That way you can have the conversation. And sometimes people have a conversation with me and I'm like, hey, it sounds like you need something a little bit less time consuming right now. Why don't you roll over here for a little bit and then we can bring you into programs as your time allows.
And if you want to shadow one of our calls, you can do that and see what it's all about. And then December, Nicole usually does a very big in-person event. I think Karr and Marion were talking about, they plan out the entire year. And so if there's a specific topic that's very important to you, where it's, man, I know some experts in that area, that would be the right one that you'd want to sign up for, to be that junior host.
Thank you so much.
If you're interested in any of the other committees, I did put a link just now in chat to a list of all the other committees and the application for those. But for these two, I would just contact Marion and Nicole directly.
Yeah, I just put my email in the chat as well, if you want to email me. I think, and one last point, and any other questions, please raise your hand. We'd love to hear it. One of the things we want to do, and again, I'm doubling down on the same thing I said, but this is a key point I want to make sure is made. We want to grow the amount of information that we share and what topics we cover. To Angela's point, sometimes we're limited on those monthlies. It seems like it's the same thing over and over again, but with everything going on in healthcare in our own state, just plus nationally, we want to make sure we're reaching a large audience and covering topics that are relevant. And some of those topics might be even somewhat controversial. One of the things we love about, again, I'm gonna go back to the clubhouse thing situation, is where we can talk about some things that we might not talk about anywhere else. Matter of fact, we call the clubhouse GAHE Undercover. So
we haven't got turned in yet.
yeah, we haven't got turned in yet. So we're like pulling back the cover to look at some things, so it might be, anything. So as we look at the people in this group, we want to know what you want to learn. What is it that you're missing in your norm, in where you are? What do you want to talk about? What do you think is relevant to your organization, be it rural or be it physician management or be it whatever it might be? So that's, again, I want to beat that particular drum one more time because I think it's so key to what we're trying to do. Back to you, Nicole.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Well, just feel free to reach out to me or Marion. If you have any other questions, go ahead, Bruce.
I was just going to say, if there are any other questions, go ahead and ask them. If not, you guys want to wrap it up? Or maybe have Angela wrap us?
Yeah, well, and I hope to see everyone on Monday, once again, 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock at S6 Brewing in Duluth. So we'll be heading that way. And if you've ever got questions, you can feel free to reach out to me as well. Nicole's going to be, she's grown what I did years ago into a very well-oiled large machine. So, but thank you all for your attendance and for your time and for listening to us. And we definitely want to make sure if there's a level of involvement that you would like to be a part of, that we are meeting you where you need. And volunteer hours are needed for your board certification. So please let us know how we can help you with that as well. Thank you guys so much and hope you have a great rest of the day.
Yeah,
Thanks everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.